She wanted to embarrass him. In front of strangers, her voice rose above the crowd with words meant to wound, a racist insult that carried centuries of hate. Some laughed, some looked away, but everyone expected him to shrink under the weight of her cruelty. Instead, he stood tall, his eyes steady, his silence heavier than her words. And when he finally spoke, the atmosphere shifted. One sentence, just one, was enough to stop her cold. What did he say that no one saw coming? Subscribe and join our community. Marcus wasn't the kind of man who sought attention. He was soft-spoken, thoughtful, and focused on building a future that his younger self could be proud of. At just 30 years old, he had already launched his own small business, something he'd poured countless late nights and early mornings into. To many in his neighborhood, he was a quiet example of what determination and hard work could achieve. That Saturday afternoon, Marcus decided to take a break from his routine. The city square was buzzing with life. Food trucks lined the streets, vendors displayed handcrafted goods, and families moved from booth to booth with children laughing in the background. The smell of roasted corn and fresh coffee filled the air, mixing with the sound of street performers playing soft tunes on guitar. For Marcus, it was a simple joy, to be among people, enjoying the atmosphere, without any thoughts of work or deadlines. He strolled casually, pausing now and then to admire a painting or to greet someone he recognized. His presence was quiet, but warm, the kind of energy that drew nods of respect from those who knew his story. He was living proof that no matter how tough life could be, there was always room for hope, resilience, and success. But not everyone saw him that way. Among the crowd was a woman who didn't see Marcus's hard work or humanity. She saw only the color of his skin. Her eyes followed him with sharp disapproval, her thoughts building into something darker with every passing second. Marcus had no idea he was about to become the center of attention, not for his achievements, not for his kindness, but because of a confrontation that would test his strength in ways he never expected. At first, Marcus didn't notice her. He was too focused on a booth selling handmade journals, flipping through pages that smelled of fresh ink and paper. But she noticed him. Every move, every gesture, every simple joy he took in that moment seemed to fuel something ugly inside her. And then, without warning, she let her voice rip through the air. "People like you don't belong here." The words echoed louder than the music, sharper than the laughter. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. A mother clutched her child's, hand a little tighter. Heads turned, eyes searching for the source. Marcus froze, confused at first, then realizing she was talking about him. The woman didn't stop. Her face twisted with anger as she spat out more venom. "Why don't you go back to Africa?" The crowd fell into stunned silence. Some gasped. Others shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between Marcus and the woman. A few pulled out their phones, already recording. Marcus felt his chest tighten. His heart pounded in his ears, louder than the sounds of the busy square. He had heard these words before, whispered behind his back, muttered online, thrown casually in conversations when people thought no one was listening. But never like this. Never shouted. Public. Deliberate. For a moment, he considered walking. Away. Pretending it hadn't happened, keeping his head down. That would be easier. But as he looked around, he saw faces. Young kids staring wide-eyed, teenagers with phones raised, elders shaking their heads in disappointment. This wasn't just about him anymore. If he stayed silent, the message would linger in the air that her hatred was acceptable. The woman stepped closer, her voice rising, feeding off the attention. "You think you're better than us? Walking around here like you own the place? Let me tell you something, you don't." Her words sliced the air. Marcus could feel the crowd holding its breath. Every second seemed to stretch longer, the tension unbearable. He stood there, his hands trembling slightly at his sides, his body torn between fear and anger. Would he lash out, Would he leave? The questions hung in the silence like heavy smoke. And then he looked up. His eyes met hers. Calm, steady, unflinching. The woman faltered for a split second, caught off guard by his silence. But the crowd was waiting, expecting something, anything. Marcus knew his next move would decide everything. The square was silent now, all eyes fixed on Marcus. The woman's words still lingered in the air like poison, daring him to react. She smirked, certain she had cornered him, certain that her hate would either crush him or provoke him into confirming every stereotype she carried. But Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't take a step forward or back. Instead, he drew in a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle over him. And then, with a calmness that seemed impossible, he spoke. I built my life here. I work here. I give back here. This is my home, and nothing you say will ever change that. His words rang out, not angry, not bitter, but steady and unshakable. The crowd leaned in, caught off guard by the strength in his restraint. The woman blinked, her face tightening, searching for a retort. But the silence around her grew heavier. People weren't laughing with her. They weren't nodding in agreement. Instead, phones kept recording, and eyes that once glanced away were now fixed on her, judging. Marcus took another step, not toward her, but toward the truth. You tried to shame me, he said, his voice rising just slightly. But all you've done is reveal yourself. It was a turning point. The smirk faded from her face. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, she was the one left exposed, her cruelty reflected back at her through the eyes of strangers. And then, the applause started, just a few claps at first, then more, until the sound swelled through the square. The woman froze, her face pale, as the very crowd she tried to rally stood instead with the man she tried to humiliate. In that moment, Marcus realized he hadn't just defended himself. He had shifted the room. He had turned hate into a mirror. But what happened after would leave an even deeper mark. The applause grew louder, filling the square with a sound the woman couldn't silence. Her words had crumbled, her power vanished in the face of one man's dignity. She turned, muttering under her breath, and walked away, alone without the support she thought she'd find in the crowd. Marcus stood still, his chest rising and falling, a quiet storm of emotions within him. Relief, anger, sadness, all tangled together. He hadn't planned on becoming the center of attention that day, but the truth was clear. His response had turned an attempt at humiliation into a moment of strength. Later, as the videos spread online, strangers reached out with words of encouragement. Some called him a hero. Others said his calmness had taught them something about courage. But Marcus didn't see himself that way. To him, it wasn't about heroism. It was about survival, about showing the world that hate doesn't get the final word. Yet deep down, he knew what many others knew too. This wasn't an isolated event. His story wasn't the first, and tragically, it wouldn't be the last. Across cities and towns, countless others had faced the same ugliness, sometimes in silence, sometimes without a crowd to bear witness. What happened in that square was more than just one confrontation. It was a reminder of how words can wound, how prejudice can poison, but also how resilience can inspire. And the question that remains is not just about Marcus, or even that woman. It's about all of us. How many more times will we let hate echo before we finally choose to silence it together? How many more lives have to be scarred before dignity becomes the standard, not the exception? The answer is in the choices we make every single day. If this story touched you, don't just watch, be part of the change. Hit subscribe and join our community of voices that matter. Description: she tried to humiliate him in front of everyone. With hateful words meant to break his spirit, she expected silence or anger. But his calm and powerful response didn't just silence her. It left the entire crowd frozen. This is more than just one man's story. It's a reminder of the struggles many face every single day and the strength it takes to stand tall in the face of hate. In this video, we explore a powerful racism story that will move you, challenge you, and make you think about the world we live in today. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful, real-life inspired stories. Together, we can keep the conversation alive.